So yesterday's video we can see the modules and their types and in use case. So in this video we can see scope. So scope is a accessible of variable function and object in some practical particular parts of your code during runtime. In other words, scope determines the visibility of variable and other resources in area of your code. And what is a service worker? A service worker is basically script JavaScript file that runs in background, separate from a web page and provide feature that don't need a web page or user interaction. Some of the major feature of service worker and rich offline experience. Offline first web application development periodic background since push notification intercept and handle network request and programmatically managing a cache of response. How do you manipulate DOM using a service worker? Service worker can't access the DOM directly, but it can communicate with the page it controls by responding to messages sent by a post message interface, and those pages can manipulate the DOM. And there is third one. How do you reuse information across service worker restart? So the problem with service worker is that it gets terminated when not in use and restart when it next is needed. So you cannot rely on global state. Within a service worker, on fetch and on message handles. In the case service worker will have access to indexed DB API in others to persistence and use across restart. Okay, what is IndexedDB? IndexedDB is a low-level API for client-side storage for of large amount of structured data, including file, blobs. This API use indicates the enable high performance searching of this data. What is web storage? Web storage is an API that provides a mechanism by which browser can store key value pair locally within the user browser in a much more intuitive fashion that using cookies. The web storage provide two mechanisms for storing data on the client. Local storage. It store data for current origin with no experience date. Session storage. It store data for one session and the data is lost when the browser tab close. Okay, what is post message? Post message is a method that enable cross origin communication between Windows object, that is between a page and pop-up that is swapped, or between a page and a in-frame embed within it. Generally, scripts on different pages are allowed to access each other if and only if the page follows same origin policy. That is, page share the same protocol, port number, and host. What is cookie? A cookie is a piece of data that is stored on your computer to be accessed by our browser. Cookies are saved as key value pair. For example, you can create a cookie name username as below. So document.cookie that is equal to equal to username is John. Okay, and what? Okay, there is web browser and server. Between that, it take request, and from server side, response plus cookies. So that's time. Between that, the cookie are used. Why do you need a cookie? So cookie are used to remember information about the user profile, such as username. It basically involve two step. When a user visit a website page, the user profile can be stored in a cookie. Next time the user visit the page, the cookie remember the user profile. What are the options in a cookie? There are a few below options available for a cookie. By default, the cookie is deleted when the browser is closed, but you can change this behavior by setting expert data dates. Document.cookie equal to username John, experience set Saturday. Okay, that is the time. By default, the cookie belongs to a current page, but you can tell the browser what path the cookie belongs to using a path parameter. Document.cookie. Okay, and the okay, that's not one thing. How do you delete a cookie? You can delete a cookie by setting the explained expired data dates as a past date. You don't need to specify a cookie value in this case. For example, you can delete a username cookie in the current page as below. Document.cookie. There is username. Okay. Uh, okay. That's thing. Note. You should define the cookie path option to ensure that you delete the right cookie. Some browsers doesn't allow to delete a cookie.
In this video, let's understand how the service worker works, how to implement it, what are its life cycle methods, and what the points to be noted and what are its use cases. So let's understand step by step. So the first point is what are these service workers and how these what are the basic use cases for these service workers. So service worker is also a type of web worker. So this is also a type of a worker. So which will run in a separate thread. It will not work in the main thread. So that's the first point for the service worker. So the common use cases of using this service worker is, so we can use the service workers to optimize the offline experience. So if the network is low, if there is no network, if the browser is in offline mode, then we can use this offline rich experience. So in these cases, you can use the service workers. Also, we can use the service workers for the push notifications. You can push the notifications so that the users can understand the latest versions or any of sort of updates from us. So in this case also you can use the service workers. So all these things or these will work behind the screens. I mean these services service worker will work apart from the main thread. It will run in the background. So you can also sync up the backup data. The background, it will work in the background. It will sync the data when you wanted to sync up some data backups. That also can be achieved with the help of the service worker. So this is the main use cases of the service workers. So now let's understand some points. While you are using service workers, let's understand some points. So the service worker is not blocking. So it will not block the UI because it is working in a separate thread, not in a main thread of JavaScript. So it is designed fully in an asynchronous way. So that's the first point. As this is designed in the asynchronous way, the things, the concepts like which work in a synchronous mode, like local storage, XML, HTTP request, these are synchronous way of things. So this cannot be used in the service workers. And the third thing is, as service workers is in a, or working in a separate thread, it will not have direct access to the DOM. It can't manipulate the DOM object or a window object. And the fourth point is service workers only run over HTTPS protocol. It means this is because to reduce or to avoid the man in the middle attack. So it will only work in the HTTPS. Whereas if you want to check in the local host, it will work in the local host. Yep. Also, we'll try to understand some service worker life cycle, how it works. So in this example, we'll be seeing the offline optimized experience. So we can try these two examples how the service workers work, but I will explain the offline optimized experience. So to check whether the browser is supported in the service worker or not, you need to use this. So service worker in navigator. If this is not there, it means our browser is not supporting the service worker. So that's the first point. So the second thing is on load. So this is an window.add event listener. So in load event, you are trying to register the service worker to the browser. So in the we are discussing about the service worker life cycle methods. In that life cycle, the first life cycle is registration. You're going to register your service worker to the browser. That you are doing in the main JavaScript code. So when the first JavaScript code is loaded, in that onload event, you are trying to load your register service worker. So this is a path you're going to do. So the file should be at the root level. If the file is at the root level, then this service worker can handle all the fetch events at this root level. All the fetch events can be handled at the root level because the service worker is at the root level. If you're giving a service worker file in a deep level like this, in another folder like examples, and in that folder, if you're giving like this,